So you want to become a plumber? Here's some things you need to know.
I'm Kenny Molotov, licensed plumber, professional magician, and entertainer. On this channel, I go through the ins and outs of my career in plumbing. I take you through a day in the life and we talk tools, theory, and mindset. I'm trying to give you an arsenal of knowledge and an online resource so you can take this trade head on and find yourself successful on the other end. Click subscribe, hit that bell notification, and let's talk pipes.
Peeps, Kenny Molotov here at home, and I know a lot of you are thinking about getting into plumbing, or you're just getting your foot through the door when it comes to getting into plumbing. So I wanted to go through 5 different things that you should know before starting so you will have the best opportunity to be successful in this career. So the very first thing I want to talk about is that here in Ontario, Canada, and I think this is nationwide, you need a high school diploma to become a licensed plumber. So here's one thing you have to remember. If you're going the licensing route, you have to eventually go to a college, and you're going to take basic plumbing, intermediate plumbing, and advanced plumbing, but you can't get into the college system if you don't have a high school diploma. So if you're a student right now that's in high school thinking of maybe dropping out and you're wanting to join the trade after, whether it's plumbing or something else, and you want to get licensed, that's something you have to know. You're going to need that high school diploma at some point. So it does make sense to stick it through, get that high school diploma, so then you can eventually go down the road and get licensed at some point. Now keep in mind, it's not in every country that plumbing is a regulated trade. There are places on this planet where you can just become a plumber, buy a truck, and start doing that sort of work. In places like Canada, plumbing is regulated, so you have an entire apprenticeship you have to go through in order to finally go through the stages of becoming licensed. So if you don't have a high school diploma, it is something you're going to have to look into to eventually get licensed here. And that brings me to my second point of things you need to know. There's a difference between being a plumber and also being a licensed plumber, and I'd like to explain that difference to you right now. There are plenty of people right here in Canada and here in Ontario, Canada, that have been doing plumbing for the past 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, but they never went the route of becoming licensed. Now think about it, they're still plumbers, they just haven't gotten a license under their belt. Now what's the difference, you're probably asking, and here it is. The big difference here in Ontario is that if you're a licensed plumber, you can then get your master's license and then open up a plumbing company. That's something you can't do in Ontario if you don't have your license. The other thing is if you're licensed and you walk into a plumbing supplier, you can sign up and register an account, and they're going to give you materials at wholesale prices so that you can bump those materials up when you go out to work and the customer has to pay for the copper or the ABS that you're working with. If you're not a licensed plumber, you have to actually go there and buy everything at retail price, and I'm telling you, some things are super expensive because of that. But the real big reason that a lot of people do opt to get the license is because at some point you're going to be able to charge top dollar to the company or the union that you're working for. So in other words, if you're not licensed, unfortunately you don't typically make as much as you would if you were licensed. Getting a license is essentially a talking point on your resume that basically says, look, I am as certified as I can be in this career, whatever your top plumber is making essentially. And that's really why people go down the route of getting licensed. And that's really what it all comes down to. There's some people that don't go the licensing route because they're not interested in it. They're making enough money to make ends meet, they're happy with that, and they can't stand walking into a classroom. But look, these plumbers that aren't licensed doesn't mean they're not qualified. Some of them are even better than plumbers that do have licenses. That's the interesting part about it. There are just some individuals that don't enjoy sitting in a classroom. They don't enjoy sitting down and going through the studying phase. I mean, for some people, it's really an arduous task for them. So they eventually opt out of getting any license down the road, but that is something to keep in mind. The third thing that I want to touch on briefly is that especially on the service side of things, it's really beneficial to have a driver's license as well. Now, in regards to service work, at some point when your boss and your company is happy with the work that you do, they're going to want to eventually give you a service truck. So you're going to hop into that truck, you can put all your tools there, you don't have to lug them around from the truck to the house, etc. And you're going to be able to drive home with that truck, then drive to your first job site site with that truck and drive all day with that truck. So driving is a big deal when it comes to this sort of trade, because your ability to show up has everything to do with your ability to take on the task. So especially on the service side of things, you're gonna wanna get a driver's license, and it's gonna be helpful and an asset to you and your company. Now, in regards to union work, here in Ontario, unions typically do new construction, so you are on one job site for a certain duration of time. Could be a couple of months, could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of years. So all you really have to do is show up to the job site every day at the right time, and you're good to go, because the tools stay on the job site with the union. So it's not gonna be as crucial for you to have a driver's license in this regard. So it might be a little bit easier for you under those circumstances if you don't already have a driver's license and you're not thinking of getting one. So the fourth thing that you need to know if you're planning on getting into plumbing and you're planning to get licensed in plumbing is that there is a math element to the courses you're about to take. So in other words, if you go through your apprenticeship, you do your 9,000 hours, you do your 3 in-class sessions, those in-class sessions are gonna have math elements to them where you're gonna need to know fractions, you're gonna start learning offsets, you're gonna start learning ratios, you're gonna start learning conversions from Fahrenheit to Celsius, Celsius to Fahrenheit, etc. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize until they finally go to plumbing school, and then there's a little bit of panic that comes along with that. Now, here's something you need to know. It is not the most complex math in the world. It is math that you did do through elementary school and high school, but that is something you're gonna be encountering. Now, just to let you know, I do have a plumbing math course. It's 10 hours long, and it's something that you can purchase. That's a great prep course, and it takes you through all the math that I went through my apprenticeship, including basic, intermediate, and advanced, so that you're gonna get as much information out of me as possible, and you'll be encountering math that you've seen before if you take this prep course. Look down in the description below. I should have a video up here as well, so you can see details about that math course. There's an entire different video on the math course, and I take you through it step by step. But that's something to keep in mind. There is gonna be a large math component both in your apprenticeship and finally when you take your final exam, which is your red seal. So the fifth thing that I wanted to let you know is that plumbing is very vast, and this is something that I didn't understand when I first got into the trade. There are so many different types of plumbing that you can do. You can actually go places with this that you never expected when you first got in. So for example, my father and I, we do a lot of high-rise residential work, but we also do residential work that's houses. There's also commercial work, and then if you continue on down that road, there's so many other things that you could go into. You can go into backflow prevention, which is an entirely different section of plumbing. You can go into rural plumbing, which goes into septic systems, which goes into wells. You can go into water treatment. I mean, there are so many opportunities once you get into this field that it's actually quite amazing and inspiring. So a lot of times people get into plumbing just to eventually realize that they like it, like there's something they love about plumbing, but you know, maybe they have a bad knee and they can't go underneath cabinets anymore and work on kitchen sinks or work on vanities, etc. That the work maybe becomes too much for their body. So they can start doing other things, like they could start getting into sales of water treatment, can start looking into reverse osmosis or carbon filters, etc. There's so many places you can go with this. So having the plumbing license and having the knowledge in plumbing is going to be a huge asset to you, and you can eventually go wherever you want to go with it as long as you continue maintaining the standards of the trade. So again, there's lots of opportunity out there for those that are looking for it. The sixth and final thing you need to know about plumbing is something that I think people already know, but I need to reiterate it because it is so important, which is plumbing is both mentally and physically demanding. So what you have to know is plumbing is hard work. From time to time, you're going to be doing things that are really hard on the body. A lot of times you're going to be on your hands and knees working underneath cabinets. So you have to make sure you have knee pads on, or you're going to feel it the next day, or you're going to feel it the next year or the next month, etc. You have to be aware of that. At some point, you're going to have to dig in your career, and you're going to learn very quickly what a blessing it is to have a digging crew that you know of, because digging can really take a toll on the body, on your strength, and on your ability to problem solve. What you have to realize is that there is a such thing as being work fit, and it doesn't come in the first year. It didn't come in the first year for me. It came in probably the second, third year. There's a sort of stamina that you eventually get on the job site after enough work that you can then put in 8 to 10 hour days, and it's not going to destroy you for the next day. But that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. At some point, the materials like cast iron iron and things like that are going to become easier on your body because you're going to get fitter. And then the second thing that you have to realize is that plumbing is also mentally demanding, because as your body starts to get tired, your mind also gets tired as well. So problem solving becomes more and more difficult as you start to get tired. But what you also have to realize is that there's problem solving on the job sites, and then there are expectations of us from time to time to actually engineer systems. That's something I didn't realize when I first got into plumbing, is that we go to school as plumbers here in Ontario to eventually learn how to plumb a house, literally with fixture units. Find out how many fixture units are running through the houses, and then I can size all the pipes going all the way from the top floor out to the sewer outside. And that is a mentally demanding thing. You're expected to sit down with the code book and look through all the codes and decide upon which things are going to be up to standard, what rules need to apply, etc., which is both a lot of fun, but again, is something that's going to be taxing on the mind. It's a hard project, it's hard to do, but a lot of us find it a lot of fun as well. So peeps, I hope you enjoyed this video. I just gave you 6 things that you need to know when you're getting into the trade. That way you know exactly what you're getting yourself into and are a little bit more prepared of what might come your way when you first get your foot in the door. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you plumbers very soon. Kenny Molotov, guys. Peace, baby.